on collaboration in Google Slides. I am going to quickly stop sharing this screen for now and just chat to you. So yes, collaboration in slides. We covered collaboration in docs last week, and it's just about showing you how you can have multiple people working on the same document at the same time. And in this case, we're going to look at setting up Google Slides. You'll be pleased to know it's a little less complex than yesterday's slide session. This is a bit easier for us to get going with, and is probably something that you could use quite quickly. I'm going to view, yes. So I am going to start sharing my entire screen. Let's just get this ready. Sure, I've got my keyboard to hand. And I will come out of this. So I need to go into the classrooms and just make sure that we can all edit the file. And what we are focusing on today is I have set a task in the Google Classrooms, whether you're Midlothian or East Lothian, called Collaborating in Slides. And in this one, I have asked you to share any information about an obscure hero. So this is someone who's maybe not given enough credit. It may be the person who came up with a custard cream. You know, it could be that person who came up with that biscuit that you love so much. So have a think about it. I'm not going to care who this person is. It could be you. You know, we're all heroes right now. We're all adapting to things. And if that's something that's easier for you to write about, pop it in. So what you need to do is go to the document. If you've already got it open, and because I've just updated it so that you can edit, you might need to refresh your screen. And to do that, you can either just click where the website address is so it goes blue and hit enter, or you can hit this arrow that goes round in a circle, or you can simply go back to Classroom and reopen the slide deck. So I'm going to open this, and we've got slightly less people on the slides today than we had last week. So we've got, 60 people altogether. And there's 3 of me on this call, so there's 60 people altogether. And you'll be able to open up this document, find a slide. Now, if you find that there's a picture, so you'll see as I go down this on my screen, that you'll see where people are on the slide deck. So we've got all these circles in the slide, and then you'll see, oh, there's another few people on that one. Find one where there's not a circle already. Now, there are 100 slides, so there's plenty to go around. So we're opening, for those of you who have just joined, we're going into Classroom. We're opening this Obscure Heroes document. And then you're finding a slide that no one else is on, and we're getting there, like we've just got one circle in all of these. And you're going to just find an obscure hero, someone random. I mean, you can copy what someone else has done. I'm really not caring. And what you can do, so we can insert an image. If you know the person's name, you might want to Google. So obscure heroes. These would be good for some pub quizzes, actually. And yes, find some information, just copy and paste it. And to copy and paste, I am going to go into this one from BBC News, and you can just highlight the information you want to include. Right click, copy, and then you can add your text. Oh, someone's changed the layout, nice. You can add your text. Let's see. Here's one that no one else is on. In here, and then you can pop their name. Now you'll notice that text went in quite small, so you can do this without formatting. So we can click and paste without formatting. Can't find slides to edit. If you scroll right down to the bottom, so down on this left-hand side, and scroll all the way down, the slides at the end, there's nobody on them. Now, the reason I've got slides there already is if I don't have enough slides for my whole class, what will happen is they'll all start writing on the same one. If you can't find anything obscure, just put in a picture, put in some random information. You could put in a picture of your favourite biscuit. And can't find the Midlothian Techie Tea Party. So, Midlothian 1, if you've not joined the classroom, let me just make sure you've actually put in that code. So make sure you've joined, and is that in Midlothian for Can't Find the Obscure file? classwork. So in Midlothian, collaborating in slides, and then the obscure heroes is here. So we need to go into classwork, in our Techie Tea Party, open up this obscure heroes. You might need to view the assignment to be able to open it. And the format back for your own slide, you will not be able to change the slide size on your one slide, and that fits for all of the slides on the document. But you could change the theme, you could change the colors on your own one. Just don't apply it to all of them. But we've got there. So let me just go back and open this. Let's make sure I've got the right account. Too many accounts going on. So let's see where we've got to. Right, we've got a comment, a statue. We've got Alan Turing. Nice, we're getting there. Thomas Tannock, I wonder if that's to do with any tea cakes. And a dog, nice one. So yeah, so this is, as you can see, we're all working on this. I would say this is a bit less mad compared to a Google Doc for collaborating, because I know last week when we did the Google Doc, it does jump about a lot as the table moves, and it is maybe a bit more stressful when there's, at that point, I think we had over 100 people in the same document. Whereas this one, you'll see we've got 40, maybe nearly 50 people on this document at the moment, and we're not having the same stresses. And I would say this is where Google Slides is great for this, simply because we can make it quite easy. You could do this for your class and have their name in the speaker notes. So at the bottom underneath your slide, you'll see the speaker note, and you could put the student's name in there so they know which slide they need to work on. You cannot, well, no, you can't really lock the page setup so students can't change it. I don't think it's something that they typically would do. They do sometimes go in and change the theme. So they may go into this theme button at the top. But if you were to create something, so like we showed yesterday, where you have that fixed slide where they can't move too much about, that could definitely help prevent these things from happening. It depends how much freedom you give them. And if you are simply giving them empty slides like I've given you, you're more likely to come across them maybe being a bit more mischievous because they've got a bit more freedom. Thomas the Tank Engine. This is great. So yeah, you'll see someone's changed the theme. So it's gone a little bit different for some of us. And that was just here. So you can just play about. I mean, this is your chance to see what happens if you start pressing buttons and see what happens to other people's slides. To be honest, that's what the students are doing, and they're more inclined to just push buttons than I think we are. We're maybe a bit more careful because back in the day, if you pressed something on a computer incorrectly, it would cause absolute havoc. But now in this cloud world, there's not much that will go wrong. There's always that undo button. As in the Google Docs, there is the version history. So we can go into the version history and I can see the version history. Then that allows me to see who's all been on and who's editing it. I can see what happened earlier. Now I did have this on as able to edit yesterday, but certainly I can go in and I can see this. I can expand this. Let's see if it's going to do this quite quickly for me. Maybe been a bit slow. And then you can see what each person has done. Able to alter other slides. Yes, you're able to go on and change other people's slides because you're all in the same document right now. So because this is a collaborative document, you're all editing the exact same file. So you could jump and delete somebody else's. Now, the way I have encouraged people to use this is if you're wanting students to share pictures with their classes of what they've been up to whilst working from home, or sharing maybe their own, a maths book of all the different ways they've been doing maths at home, for example, you could create a slide deck and have a slide for each of them. And then that's their bit where, say, like in the classroom with your class display board, you could use this in that same way. And they simply create their own display area within the class, within the slide deck, to display all of their work that they're proud of. the slide deck, that's just another word for what this is. So rather than calling this a PowerPoint, Google Slides, all of your slides together is a slide deck. So it's just what we call this. It's something that's new in my vocab, but certainly I use it an awful lot. So if you hear slide deck, that's just your deck of slides that you've got here, your pack. Now, just to recap some of the features of Google Slides, I went over some of these yesterday. So we can insert images, and you can search the web for these, and I'm sure some of you have found this already. Last week, I did talk about getting images from Google Search. So if I just search Alan Turing as the example, I go into images, and if there's a picture that I really want to use, I would click on this, drag it over to the document, and let go of it on the slide that I wanted to go into. There are also the options to insert audio and video. So if you find a YouTube video related to your obscure hero, you could put that in as well. And you can search them. So I can search for Alan Turing. Help if I clicked in the box there. And then I can select the video that I would like, and then that will insert into here. So I can pop that all into the document rather than simply having to rely on a picture or some text. This is great for students who maybe struggle with writing. They could also upload a video of themselves talking about their learning as well. And yes, Suki, so clicking and dragging an image works regardless of the copyright. So that's where it is much preferred to have the images inserted from the insert image and search the web option, because these are all free of any copyright issues. And all of the ones that are here, we need to go into the tools, usage rights, and labeled for reuse to know that we are allowed okay to use these in our own work or modify them. Again, you can do the same with any of these to pop them into your document. So they are slightly different in what comes up in the search. And yeah, if people get frustrated, that's just simply because, you know, they may be looking at gaming. I think that's quite common when I've come across with students, is they've been looking up, you know, images that they want to include from gaming that they've been doing, or any programs or any of their, you know, favorite things, and they're not there. And that's probably because it's branded. And then there's a lot more copyright information around about that. Any other questions, pop them in the chat. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to show you how to create this and share this with your class. How to get permitted pictures is in Google Search. I will be covering this. Google Search is on the 13th of May. That's ages away. It's like 2 weeks away today or tomorrow. So to get a picture that you want from Google, let's go into, I'll go from google.com just to show you from the very beginning. So if we go into Google, I'm going to search Alan Turing. Then I'm going to go to images. Now, these images are not filtered by whether they're suitable for reuse or not. What I need to use is this Tools button. Let me just scroll along so you can see it. Tools is just here underneath this little text box. Select Tools, Usage Rights, and then we can have it either labeled for reuse or non-commercial reuse and so on. So there's a few different options. We can use any of these within education. Yeah, inserting an image from an iPad can be quite difficult. On my own iPad, I would tend to have it save the image to the iPad and upload from the device. I tend to find that's a bit better. But yeah, the slides on an iPad is slightly different and a few more limited features. But I do find that if you are to save the image that you want to use to the iPad first, it's a bit better. And there was another question there. Only you that can see the document history. You can see this as well because you've got edit rights to it. So if you go into File, Version History, and See Version History. This is quite handy when I'm doing demos. If someone accidentally deletes it, you may find that someone who's got edit Rights will go and restore it before you've even actually fixed it yourself. And if someone changes from landscape to portrait, that applies to all slides. Yes, it applies to all slides, not just their own. And the timer that I showed at the beginning, I thought this might be quite useful for you to know as well. So that's just a timer off of YouTube. So all I've done is I've gone onto YouTube and I've searched for a 5-minute timer. There's heaps of them, so we don't need to constantly rely on that online stopwatch. There are also videos of the online stopwatch in here as well. These all have music that go with them. I obviously have it muted for playing for you. This is the one that I use here. Some of them are a bit longer than 5 minutes. So you do need to be aware that some, you'll see this one's like 5 minutes, 16 seconds. So it's obviously not really a 5-minute timer. And some of them have got adverts at the start as well, which can be a bit funny. But certainly you find the video you would like to use, click on it, open it, copy and paste the web address, and then you can insert the video. And this is called the URL. So I always think of the L as the link. And you can just paste that in there. Then that video will go in. And what we can do there, as soon as you put in the video, you get these format options down the side. If they don't appear, we just click on the format options in the toolbar. And this is where you can have it to autoplay when presenting and mute the audio. So when I am presenting, so when I first start up the day with the Techie Tea Party, you'll see I've got one slide where I've got a GIF. So we can put in these animated pictures called GIFs into our slides as well. So I have that on, and then as soon as I click onto the next slide, I've got the timer set to begin. So that's what you would do there. So you would have the timer put into your slides, wherever you want it to be. You may want to have it that it starts playing when you click on it. So if I don't have it set to play straight away, I can click on that video to start playing it. So it just depends how you want to work. But certainly, the timers are quite a nifty thing. In the classroom, you could have it with the music on when we're eventually back in that physical classroom. You could have it with the audio on, and some of them have got some nice music to have on in the background. So I'll just show you how to create the slide deck to share in your classroom. I'll show the GIFs just a bit later. So the slide deck, what we do to get new slides is we go slide.new. That is our shortcut. We used it for docs.new. And it's the exact same for slides. So slide.new, slideshow.new, or slides.new, all of those will work. Then what we want to do is have this set up for how we want the students to use it. So you can choose to have it completely blank, gives them complete freedom. You could go in and do all the page setup at the beginning if you want to. You could change the background color or put in that image like I showed you in yesterday's training, how to put in that image so that they can't edit text boxes and stuff that's already there. So if you want to really structure your lessons, if you missed yesterday's session, the webinars are on the Techie Tea Party website. They're also shared on the classroom. I put them back up on the classroom yesterday. Then the next thing to do is I would put the instructions in that first slide as well, just to remind them. So I wouldn't have students working on that first slide. And what I am then going to do is I'm just going to click on the slide at the side. I'm going to right click on it and duplicate. And that means whatever I have, I'll put in a picture just so you can see that it will do the same for all. And the trusty puppy picture. Let's go for a different one today. So this will go in then. If I right click on here and duplicate slide, I'll get another one. Then there's this arrow at the top and it's going to the right. So we've got one going to the left, that's to undo, but the one going to the right is redo. And if I just click on this, I'll get all the slides quite quickly without having to right click, duplicate every single time. Then I might want to go and put in student names into the footer, into the speaker notes, sorry, so that they know which slide they're working on. I'll just give this a 29th of April demo. And then I am going to share this in Classroom. So to share this in Classroom, let me just open up my demo class. I open up the classroom I want this to go in. And I've seen some of you are using your test classes that you set up last week or on Monday to practice sharing these things, which is great to see. As always, if you want to practice and you want to see what it's like from the student view or from the teacher view, set up a classroom. I mean, some of the people in the Techie Tea Party classrooms you're a member of might want to be in a test classroom with you, and you may want to be in one of theirs. And that will give you the opportunity just to try out some of these things, see how it works, see if you've done it right, and then you can then go on and use it with your classroom and on your own classroom. So it's sometimes quite useful. It depends on your students. Some of you might just be like, no, my kids will tell me if I've done it right. So I'll go into classwork and then I'm going to create an assignment. I'm going to add the document. I'll do this first this time. So I'll add the document I want to use. So that's got the date on it and I've got the right title, and I'll add that. And this is where we want students to be able to edit the file. So we don't want to make a copy, because if it's collaborative, we want them all to work together. At this point, if I do this in the Techie Tea Party classroom, you could set this for groups. So if you had a note of groups in your class, you could set this up so that each group gets their own slide deck. So you're not having every single person in your class working on it. You could split them up. And the way we do that is we give the ed access. Then we can go into all students. We can deselect them, and then we can choose the people that we want to have access. You could just go in your class list, split it in half and half it again. Then I can assign that to these individuals. Give it a name. Okay, and then if you'll see it's assigning to 5 students. So this means that you can kind of control how many students are working on the same document. It limits that risk of having people edit it too much. And it also means that you could do it for your reading groups if you're a primary teacher and have them working on those bits of comprehension together and do a book report together. You cannot set up the groups for your class. If you do want to do this regularly for your class, you could have I used to have a reading group classroom for each of my reading groups. So I would have like my penguins, my polar bears, and so on in their own classrooms. And that was because they were primary 3 at the time, and I wanted to make sure that all my instructions were quite clear. And it also just meant that they could go in and talk away about their work in that classroom. Not that they did too much though, but certainly you could have it so that you're just using the one classroom, or you could have it that you have a classroom set up for each of your groups. There's no limit to how many classrooms you have working at once. And because we've got that option, when we create an assignment to post to multiple classrooms, there's nothing stopping you from doing that for your reading work as well, or maths, for example. So yeah, I would just add that as an assignment, insert it with edit access, and then that will allow people to go in and work on the file. If you want to restrict when they have access to start editing it, like I do for these, you could have it as a view to begin with, go back into that assignment, edit it so that they can then edit the file, save it, and then they can edit straight away. And yes, so when you go into that view history, the version history, you can name different versions. This is quite handy for students, certainly in secondary schools who are creating large documents, coursework, for example. They could name that version so that they can go back to it if need be and go through all their different drafts of the same document. But yes, you can restore. So I could go back to this one, restore this version. Because we were all editing at the exact same time, it's a bit more challenging for me to go in and choose exactly where we're going to restore to, because that all happened at once. But normally you would have a bit of leeway and you would have a bit more time to go and change that. I did have a question about how you insert a GIF. So when you insert an image, you can search the web and you can search for a GIF, or you can do the Google search. This is how I got my one. So cup of tea GIF. You just search for GIF, go into images. They won't move when you view them like this, but you'll see the word GIF by the side. And then I can click on the picture. You'll see it starting to move. And then again, I can click, I can drag it up into the document and let go, and it will go in. Yeah, with fewer people, there will be fewer, it'll be easier for you to restore the versions. And yes, yeah, so what I would say, let's just go through. We've got someone who's teaching in primary 1-2 and learning basic skills. Now, I would say with them, you want to kind of keep it quite structured. They will be more than capable of inserting images, and it's quite surprising what you can actually get out of children at that stage. I certainly was quite surprised when I started teaching primary 2 digital skills, and I went in thinking, oh, we'll start with this today, this will be easy, and it was done very quickly. So, but certainly, this is quite different from Microsoft, but I would say for students, it's quite intuitive. It's quite clean, so there's not too much for them to get confused by in terms of clutter of different menus. They can focus just on these 2 pictures here with the T for the text box and the little mountains for the picture. If they focus on that, then it's quite straightforward. They could then go into using shapes, certainly for P1-2. GIFs, again, you need to do that tools, usage rights labeled for reuse, if we're going to do things by the book. So yes, you need to make sure that they are. I don't think the one I've used is, to be honest, but certainly you do that, you're covering your own back that way. Any other questions, pop them in the chat. I think that's really it for the collaboration in slides. It's actually 11:30 for once. I'm going to finish that bit. So I'll stop recording, but any questions, pop them into the chat and I'll answer